The pack is the pack.
Bye-bye, Canada. Let's go. What do you say?
The strength of the pack is the pack.
This was a decision made by me and me alone.
Did you watch the press conference?
I just caught parts and bits of it. I can't listen to a full conference. It's just too much.
Did you catch the we're not going to urinate on the fire?
Yeah.
You might hear it here. You might hear it. I got Tomlin's speech up right now.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Well, let's play the music. Let's let our fans know we're here.
Let's let them hear in Tomlin's words what was said.
Are we not playing the song today?
Hello?
The song is playing.
We can't hear it.
Yeah, it's
too
useless.
Bad. That's too bad.
I don't think anybody else
Are you allowed to play "Oh Canada" over the radio?
I have no idea, but
I don't.
Can you guys hear Tomlin?
No,
absolutely not. No.
We can't hear anything.
I don't know why that is, but welcome to the Sports Porch, guys. Obviously,
are you sure? Are you sure people can hear us at all? The director,
you drop a comment if you can't hear us. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure people can hear us.
I don't know. I'll email Amy, see if she
off to an inauspicious start. All right, guys, listen, welcome to the Sports Porch. We are live all over the world on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And we will drop this in the Sports Porch podcast after
Amy can
special
hear us.
edition.
We're good.
This special edition of the Sports Porch is brought to you courtesy of the Steelers organization. And Canada is gone, and everybody knows that now. So we're not breaking anything new. But we did want to come on and we wanted to talk about it because we are really excited.
Thrilled.
Are you excited,
Steve? Absolutely thrilled. It's unprecedented that this move by the Steelers. Unprecedented.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
You have to go back to 1941 for an in-season coaching change.
How about that?
Yeah, but 1941, everybody knows, isn't a real year for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes, it's a fake year. That's right.
Interestingly enough, though, in 1941, the coaching change, the head coach decided to fire himself.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's what I heard on the radio.
It is true. Yeah.
How do you announce your own firing?
I don't know. Things must not have been going well.
It's probably the last thing he ever did.
How would Mike Tomlin announce his own firing?
Well, he thought it would be best for his winning record, probably.
He'd say, well, the firing is the firing.
Yeah. I'm not going to urinate on that or whatever.
Well, let's break it down.
Okay. Yeah. Here. Let me go here. Let me go here. This is the story because there's a lot of conflicting stories right now about who, what, when, where, and how it happened. The story, Steelers fire offensive coordinator Matt Canada after offensive struggles, citing offensive inconsistencies and lack of improvement. The Pittsburgh Steelers have fired OC Matt Canada, Coach Mike Tomlin announced Tuesday. Now, it was actually announced before Tomlin announced it. That's a Tomlinism there. I wanted to announce it before I announced it. I did not come to this decision lightly, to be really transparent with you. Tomlin said, it is my role to absorb and protect those that I work with. And this doesn't feel like that. Obviously, I'm not interested in assigning blame or deflecting in any way. And he goes on to say that Eddie Faulkner will take over. I love this, though. He's going to take over OC duties, but Mike Sullivan's going to call the plays.
Right.
Look, before you guys talk about this at all I can say is, could we just do something normal around this franchise? Could we just have an actual offensive coordinator again?
Yeah, forgive me, but I did not know who Eddie Faulkner was before this press release. I knew who Mike Sullivan was.
But you had to guess who it was. Like, if you had to guess, you probably would have guessed what he is, right?
I guess.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, he's
not going to... What's he, like, the assistant head coach? I don't know. What was he before?
Faulkner is the running backs coach.
That's funny. You think the Steelers have an assistant head coach?
Right. I know.
That's so great of you, Mark. I love your innocence about the Steelers.
Yeah.
Was he like a passing game, running game coordinator or something?
No, he's a running backs coach. He is the running backs
coach.
coach.
Yeah.
I knew Sullivan was the quarterbacks coach, right?
Yeah. He ties Tomlin's shoes in the morning and then brings him his coffee in the afternoon. Yeah, none of these guys run the team. Tomlin runs the team. Hell, he's probably the one calling the plays on offense too.
Oh, come on. Tomlin doesn't know how to call offensive plays. Don't be ridiculous.
I know. I'm being facetious about that. But
so let's get into it here in terms of, is this going to make things better?
It's going to make things different, but will it make it better? Well, what did you do? You got rid of a guy who probably did okay calling plays, but wasn't able to make his quarterback perform well with those plays. Okay. So I think by default, you probably make it better only because I think having a quarterback's coach call the plays, he probably knows better what the quarterback is more comfortable with throwing than the offensive coordinator who maybe wants to take the team in a certain direction. So I think by that reason, I think you make the passing game better. But by having an offensive coordinator who's the running backs coach, to me is trouble, because that makes me think he's going to want to scheme offensive plays more around the run and less around the pass. And while the run game has been much better recently, and I think the offensive line definitely is better, I think it has problems for the future and our ability to score more points. So I don't know that you'll see that many more points being scored by the offense. So I think it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is I have to think that they're going to let Kenny Pickett open it up a little bit more. And that could go one of two ways. It could lead to scoring more points. It also could lead to more turnovers. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna get out of it, but that's kind of what my thought is. Now, first things first, you can't do any worse than Canada, right? You really can't. I mean, unless you're, I mean, look, unless you're just talking about, the only thing Canada's offense did well was not produce turnovers. That's it.
Well, they also didn't score really well too.
Yeah.
They were prolific at that, you might say.
Yeah, they were prolific at not scoring. It was I feel there should be a spot in the Hall of Fame for this guy. I really do. Go ahead. Well, it's the afternoon, guys. I mean, you're interrupting nap time to tell Steelers Nation what they already
actually, though, I do take that back. I think that their running game has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, lately, the last 2.5 games.
Yeah. So, I'm interested to see what'll happen. It'll be interesting, because at least I definitely feel like it's a good move, even if it doesn't result in a different outcome in terms of wins for the season. I think it should certainly give us a little peek into, does Kenny have any more than what he's shown so far? Because what I have to imagine, I heard a report, and this was prior to anything happening with Canada. One of the guys on the radio was saying that he was in the locker room, and Art Rooney looked really disgusted by what he had seen in Cleveland. Yeah. And so I believe firmly that this came down from the top, and it was just at the point where Tomlin couldn't argue it away anymore. Which I think, number one, is really good for Steelers fans to know that, somebody at least is holding somebody accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anyway that basically what Rooney was probably telling Tomlin is like, you can't play football playing not to lose. and that to me equates to we have to take some more chances. We gotta see what the kid can do. So I think we're gonna see it opened up a little bit more. I'll be really disappointed if they don't.
Well, I think you won't be the only one.
But I think they will, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of results they get.
I don't think much is going to change at all. And the reason I don't think much is going to change at all is because I don't think you can change a whole lot right now. You can't usher in a new offense. That's not going to happen. So they're going to keep the same playbook, most likely.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some plays that they practiced that they never ran because they didn't have the confidence to or didn't want to, that they might put into the active playbook.
Right.
So what's bigger for me, though, is something we actually talked about last night, guys, where I said, are the Steelers a playoff team? And, well, yes, if you look at the brackets right now, yeah, they're a playoff team. But I think this is the Steelers admitting that they're not a playoff team, that they're not going to sustain this and make the playoffs. This is the Steelers caving on the season. Now, I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. You could disagree with me after I'm done talking here. Hockey Jesus, just, give me a second here. I'm just saying that I think what their thought process was, this game was the last straw. We can't have this anymore. We can't even finish out the season with this guy because whatever is happening between him and the quarterback and the offense, he's lost the offense. When Najee Harris says what he said after the game, he's lost him. When what's his name, Chooks, got sat down for saying we might as well just kneel on the ball. They lost the team when it comes to the offensive play calling and the scheming. I think this is their way of saying, look, we got to at least give Kenny a half a season of somebody else to see if he has the tools. You don't fire your offensive coordinator and do what the Steelers did and think you're going to still make the playoffs. That's my feeling.
No, I'd say I would disagree with you. I'll just be quick before Steve goes off.
Yeah, he's about to explode.
I mean, look, if you listen to what Tomlin said in the press conference over and over again, he's like, I'm focused on winning in Cincinnati.
Yeah, right. Of course you are.
I do think that they do want to win, and I think they just reached the point where they realized where Canada was not helping them to win. So I think they made the change because they think it will help them win more games. Honestly, that's what I think.
Maybe.
So
go ahead, Steve. You've been so patient.
I look at this from a historical standpoint first, which is, what have they done recently that was a change that was surprising? You can go back to when they went and got Minka after they had that horrific start. And everybody thought that team was done. Let's just call it in. Ben's last year. Let's just forget about it. And they didn't. They traded away their first draft pick ever, their first round draft pick, and they went and got Minka because they thought that would make them a better team. And it actually did make them a better team. It didn't make them a playoff contender. In fact, they didn't even make the playoffs that year, but it did make them a better team. And then what did they do last year? Well, they started Trubisky, and knee-jerk reaction at the halftime game of the Jets, we look awful. Tomlin actually had to make that decision about saying, hey, we got to change the quarterback. We got to do something different. Now, they didn't win that game, but they did make a difference in the trajectory of the rest of that season because it was clear that nobody had confidence in Trubisky. I look at this as a very similar thing. I don't know if it was Art Rooney who did it. I suspect it was, who said, we got to change the trajectory of what this offense looks like because it just looks terrible. I know that it has worked in the past several games, but this is no way to win. You've scored one touchdown against the Cleveland Browns, even if they are the best defense in the league. That's not cutting it. You got to make a change. So he probably didn't tell him to say fire Canada or fire or change Kenny Pickett, but he probably said, this is how much this guy costs, and this is how much this guy costs. One is our future. One you're going to get rid of anyways. You make the decision. And the decision was really clear to get rid of Canada at that point, because you have to go with Kenny Pickett. The other thing is, too, I do believe he was reading the room. The room clearly is pissed off. And clearly Najee doesn't like what's going on. I think he was starting to feel like he was both losing Deontay Johnson and Pickens. And he was like, you can't let this go anymore, because if we have another game like this, people are not going to shut up. They're going to start speaking volumes. So you have to make a change, even if it is symbolic. And I believe it is mostly symbolic, by the way.
Right.
But that gives them a chance to say, okay, coach, I'm going to give you 4 more games. And that works well with Tomlin, too, because if he wins the next 3 games, they're almost guaranteed to have a winning record and have a pretty good shot at making the playoffs. I actually think if they don't beat Cincinnati, but if they beat Indianapolis, they got to beat one of those 2 teams in the next 4 games and also win on the games that they're supposed to. And they'll probably still be looking at a playoff spot. Do I think it changes their trajectory of being a juggernaut offense? No. Do I think it might help the defense, feel a little bit better? Maybe. I don't really know those dynamics between the defense and the offense, but I think that's why the change happened. And to me, it makes sense based on their history, even though I know their history says never fire the offensive coordinator. Their most recent history says, let's make bold changes and see what happens for the rest of the season. I wish they would have done it sooner. Actually, they probably should have done it in the offseason.
Yeah. We knew that. We knew that last year. That's the thing. I heard a caller on the radio today talking about this, and he asked the question that everybody, I think, has been asking, and we'll never get an answer for it, which is, why did it take the Steelers, the professionals, so long to realize what the fans already knew? And we'll never get a real answer to that. We won't know. But it's a very pertinent question, because you watch this offense, and I think the real issue now is, well, now we're going to find out how much of Canada's influence was hindering Kenny Pickett.
Yep.
Now we're going to find out. I suspect that there was a little bit of it in there, but I'm still looking at it and saying, yeah, he called a horrible offense, but there were a lot of plays, and you're talking like every single game, there were 5 or 6 offensive plays, pass calls, where Kenny looked off the wrong guy, threw to the wrong receiver, overthrew the guy, and I'm thinking, I don't know if that part of it had anything to do with the scheme, but maybe it did. Maybe Canada's offense was so simple, believe it or not, that it literally confused the players. And I'm not being funny there. I'm being serious.
Well, no, I mean,
they're used to a much more complex offense. You know what I mean?
No, I think what you're getting at is that it did not confuse the defensive players that were playing.
Well, that's true. Right. Yeah. Maybe I got confused. Yeah,
you did.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that up for me, Schwaber.
Canada confused even you.
Yes,
technical director.
Well, I was looking for a back shoulder throw, and I overthrew. So
it'll be interesting to see if there's a little spark, and it'll be interesting to see if I'm real curious. Look, I mean, the bottom line is look, they can't change the entire playbook. But I do believe that there are plays in there that they just have not been putting in. And also, too, look, you can throw some new plays in every week.
Oh, yeah.
You absolutely can. And you can throw in some creative plays. And I'm real interested to see if Mike Sullivan is going to do that. I mean, who knows? I'm kind of like excited now to watch the game. I feel like it could be.
Oh God! Don't get too excited.
No, I feel like
you're in for disappointment, Mark.
I feel like it could be fun again. Honestly, I do. I mean,
I don't know about that. But you know what? There is this kind of play in the NFL, and it's been around a while. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I really think the Steelers could probably use it and put it into their offense without very many changes being made. It's called a play action pass.
Oh, I thought you were
when you
going to
have a
say
running game.
I thought you were going to say a double jet sweep.
Yeah, no, please. I'm not going to do that. Anne Marie says they hadn't seen plays like that since high school. That is where Canada should be coaching.
Hey,
Well, that's
you know
probably
what? He could coach with Ben up at Seneca Valley.
Is Ben coaching at Seneca Valley?
Yeah, he's going to be assistant head coach next year.
Oh
no
my
way,
gosh.
really? Are you serious?
Yeah. And my son quit playing football. My son's graduating this year. Anyway.
Well, he couldn't play next year anyways. Well, unless he's got your he could. He could repeat senior year like some people did.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think the one play that I think Sully's going to take out of the playbook is the one where you throw to Jaylen Warren all alone with no blockers. And three guys are right on him.
I like that play. I think that's specifically designed that way.
If anybody could break 3 tackles, it would be Jaylen Warren.
You're right. Yeah. Hey, by the way, Jaylen Warren, I don't know if you guys ever watch Good Morning Football, but Jaylen Warren won this week's Angry Runs.
Nice.
Very nice.
So he gets a shirt, with him on it and everything. It's sweet. So you got to get your Jaylen Warren Angry Run shirt.
I like it. I think I'm going to go get one. I'm going to go look for it right now.
Yeah.
I can wear it on Turkey Day. Hey, what do you think as far as the offensive coordinator goes after this experiment happens this year?
No clue.
You think they're just going to stay local, go for Byron Leftwich? Or do you think they can go for the gold, maybe get Josh McDaniel?
I don't know. I really don't know because you go back to this whole thing about them, and reading this the first time the Steelers have made a head coach or coordinator change midseason since 1941. First of all, I don't see Josh McDaniels being here. I don't see that working.
Well, why not? Why not? I know why, but I'm curious why you say that.
Well, first of all, because he was
talented. He's got a good rapport. He has a really complicated playbook that would confuse defenses.
Tomlin would be threatened.
Too much money, right?
Well, yeah, and he would be worthwhile. Yeah. They also said Klingensmith, Arizona's former head coach.
Right. Yeah.
Supposedly he'd be a really good offensive mind. But then of course
he's not on an island and out off of Tahiti coast or something like that.
I'm sure by next year he'll be off that island looking for some money. And I'm sure he's
wouldn't it be interesting if the Steelers bring him in and then Kyler Murray?
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I love it. Breaking news here. We can break news.
There it is. There it is.
So good. It feels so good. All right. So
I like the way you think, though, Mark. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I you know what? I think that my suspicion is that if I'm Kenny Pickett right now, I'm nervous. I'm not happy.
Because I think he's thrilled. I think Kenny's
You think
thrilled.
so? Yeah, maybe.
If he's going to be an NFL quarterback, and let's assume that he is, and that's a really big leap I'm making there.
Right.
He's got to be thrilled to get a second chance in his second year at saying, hey, I can make these throws. I can do this. My quarterback's coach is going to dial up plays that I'm comfortable with. I have the ability. I will get this done. And you know what? If he can't, then you're right. The Steelers aren't a playoff team. They won't make the playoffs. And Tomlin will probably still get his winning record, so everybody will still be happy.
Well, Tomlin will be happy.
Well, I mean, those who play the game, those who watch the game will probably be wanting pitchforks and bonfires.
Yeah. Well, I think I just think this whole Faulkner as the OC, Sullivan calling the plays. Clearly, what that indicates to me is that there wasn't a plan in place, and that yes, this was a knee-jerk decision right after the horrific offensive performance. I mean, really, the term offensive coordinator fits Canada really well. He is an actual offensive coordinator. And Anne-Marie says, don't forget the tar and feathers.
Yeah, I did. I forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying, is that this is not, it's good that he's gone. That the only thing that I can take away from this right now is that it's good that he's gone. But as far as going forward goes, no clue, Steve. If just to answer your question about that, no, absolutely no clue. The Steelers they have this loyalty thing going on. They have this good old boys network inside. It's like Tomlin says that the strength of the pack is the pack. Well, it's kind of like the strength, the network is inside the network. I don't see them going out there and taking a chance on somebody who is really well established, for two reasons. First of all, McDaniels is going to cost too much money, and the Steelers, they don't have the typical Schwaber. It's so funny. I do know this about the Steelers. They have about 50% of the staff of most other NFL teams.
Yep,
like literally. Yeah, it's a skeleton crew compared to other teams. So they don't want to pay coaches. They're not going to in their minds, overpay coaches. So McDaniels is never coming here because he's not going to get the money. And so what that means is, instead of getting somebody with a pedigree who you have to pay, they're going to, my guess would be, one of these guys is going to be promoted. It would not surprise me if by the end of the year, either Faulkner or is it Faulkner, Eddie Faulkner, right?
Eddie Faulkner.
That's right. You're right. Either Faulkner or Sullivan becomes the offensive coordinator, because then you just give them a little pay bump.
They have
on the 50-yard line, and you got yourself an OC.
Well, they have to do well, though. I mean, they have to put up a good record and make the playoffs.
Well for who? Well for who? Look, if Kenny Pickett throws for 250 yards a game the rest of the season, that's doing well.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, the bar
isn't that high, though, for them to do well. The bar is not that high.
You're right.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. But but the reality is, if they don't do well, then neither one of them will be the OC next year. So
yeah, you're right about that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I just it'll be the guy that works out at the gym with Mike. That's the problem.
Who just happens to be Byron Leftwich.
Right. So you think it's going to be Byron Leftwich? Is that what you're saying, Steve?
I think a bad move. No, I think you're right. I think they're going to promote one of these jabronis.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I think that's just what they do. I mean, it's dumb, but that's what he's always done. He's always elevated the quarterback's coach. Maybe they'll go off script and actually hire the running backs coach as the offensive coordinator, not the quarterback's coach. That would be a sea change of difference for Tomlin. But that's about it. He's not gonna be asked to go out and interview offensive coordinators for the position. Rooney's not going to demand that of him. And if he does, hey, look, I was wrong about this firing, so maybe I'll be wrong about this. Happily, I'm wrong about this firing, but I'll happily be wrong when they bring in an offensive coordinator who actually has an offensive mind and is either an up-and-coming guy or a guy who's proven in the league that he can actually run an offense and he doesn't need a head coach telling him what the hell to do.
Yeah,
but
and it's
until that happens, he's just going to promote from within. And you're right. It is mind-boggling to me that the Steelers, who initially in their early years were kind of cheap around the cap, they didn't really like to spend up to the cap. But in the past 20 years, they've always spent to the cap. They've spent all their money all the time. And I don't understand why they wouldn't want to do that with head coaching jobs and just regular coaching jobs inside the organization. Maybe that's why they don't have Coach T doesn't have this coaching tree that everybody else has, because they're just not willing to go out and hire young coaches to bring them up and teach them the Steeler way, because they don't want to give away any secrets or crap like that. I don't know what it is about that, but that's a problem for the organization moving forward. But one thing is true. They have changed a little bit here, so I am hopeful that it just won't be the same old, but the skeptical side of me says in the offseason it'll be a SOS.
Well, this is something that you kind of brought it up. I mean, you were wrong about Canada being fired mid-season, but only because the Steelers did something they've pretty much never done before,
Right.
by firing him. However, this could be the beginning of the Steelers' slow walk into the new NFL. Now, remember, I said slow walk.
It's been slow, that's for
right.
sure.
So they're dipping their toes in the water by firing this offensive coordinator mid-season. Now what has to happen, and what I think will happen is, I mean, right, Coach T, he calls the shots. He likes to grind it out. He likes defensive wins, blah, 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 running game. But now he's going to be telling these guys to do the same kind of thing. And they're just it's going to be more of the same. And this organization will change, but it's just not going to change as quickly as people want them to.
Klein, you might want to put up the telephone line. We have one open line.
Yeah.
We always have
Amy May. Tomlin's afraid to bring in an offensive mind because Tomlin has 1 year left on his contract, right? He won't want anyone to outshine him and take over. And we've all talked about that. The line is up now.
Although I could foresee this, let's say Steelers make the playoffs this year, all of a sudden, Mike Tomlin extension.
Even if they have a winning record, that's good enough to give him an extension.
Probably.
Even if they go 8-9, he'll still get an extension. He's going to get an extension.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were wrong about Canada.
I've been wrong about.
That's true.
I hope I'm wrong about all this. I'm ready for a sea change in the Steelers organization. This year will mark the longest tenure of any head coach in modern day era. That's for you, Mark. Since the 1970s. Since the merger. Since
all that counts. That's all that counts.
Since the Super Bowl has been a thing.
And that's it. The Super Bowl is everything.
He will be the Steelers' longest time between Super Bowls ever. Mike Tomlin.
Well, I'll tell you what.
And he owns that.
He does. Proudly.
They're clearly not making the Super Bowl this year. Sorry, that maybe that's breaking news for some Steelers fans. But when they don't, he will be the longest. The only reason Chuck Noll didn't go longer was because he retired.
Yeah.
That's it. Chuck Noll would have never made another Super Bowl, but he was smart enough to get out because he knew he was way past his prime.
Yeah, but he was also at this point in his career, he was also already like 15 or 20 years older than where Tomlin is right now. Tomlin's younger than we are.
In age, that is correct. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So Tomlin feels like he's got many more good years left. And he might, who knows? He might. The national media loves him. They love him.
I can tell you it won't be for another franchise.
You're probably, that's I don't want to say unfortunate, but in a way it is. So, All right, guys. Well, listen, let's wrap this up. We're going to drop this podcast right after the show here on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your freaking podcasts. So it's the Sports Porch. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching this special edition. Real quick before we go, guys, they're playing Cincinnati this weekend. What do you think? Things have changed. Call the game.
I don't know how you stop Browning.
Hopefully make his plan and Miles Jack get some downs. Although
I know Miles Jack.
According to Tomlin, he's only on the practice squad, so I'm not going to talk about
it. Miles Jack was signed by the Eagles, and he was so uninterested in playing because he realized he wasn't going to get any playing time, so he retired. And now he wants to play again? It sounds like a guy who wants to make some cash.
I was going to say, sounds like he's definitely a hired gun. Right. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Sounds like a paycheck issue.
Oh, Canada.
Bye-bye, Matt Canada. Thanks for those memorable times. Like that one touchdown you scored against Cleveland.
Our
Thanks for joining
patron
us on Facebook,
saints.
YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. This is the Sports Porch Pittsburgh. You can always find us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. And you can visit us at theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com.
There you go, guys. We'll see you on Monday.
Peace out. See you Monday. I don't hear any music, but if it's
See
there.
you in Cincy, baby. Bye-bye.
Banana, bam, 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 banana, bam, bam, bam.